Welcome back to another Explainer. I'm your host, Dr. Chem, and today we're going to dive into the absolute gold standard of chemical analysis. We're going to see exactly how scientists decode the invisible world all around us using an incredibly powerful technique called gas chromatography mass spectroscopy. And I promise you, by the end of this, the microscopic world is going to make a whole lot more sense.
So imagine for a second you're a forensic investigator, or maybe an environmental scientist, and you're handed a real-world problem. You've got to find a microscopic needle in a vastly complex chemical haystack. You need to identify a single invisible toxin hidden in a single drop of blood or a tiny grain of soil. And the catch? You need to do it without a single false positive. Literally zero room for error. So how do you do it? Well, you obviously can't just peer through a microscope. You need a way to literally pull that entire mixture apart and analyze it, molecule by molecule.
And the ultimate solution to that problem is an admittedly intimidating acronym, GCMS. It stands for Gas Chromatography Mass Spectrometry. Now, I know it sounds incredibly complex, but it's actually just a brilliantly logical two-step process. First, the gas chromatography part separates out all the volatile compounds in a mixture. Then, the mass spectrometry part steps in to provide highly sensitive, incredibly precise identification of each and every one of those separated compounds. Put them together, and you get exceptional sensitivity with dead-accurate compound identification.
Here is our roadmap for today's explainer. We'll start with decoding complex mixtures. Then look at Phase 1, gas chromatography, followed by Phase 2, mass spectrometry. After that, we'll cover the technology's evolution, and finally, real-world applications.
Okay, let's jump right in. Section 1, decoding complex chemical mixtures.
To wrap your head around this, think of your complex chemical sample as a massive group of mixed-up runners in a relay race. The gas chromatograph, or GC, is basically the track. It separates the runners based on their volatility and their affinity for the track itself, essentially how fast they can run. Then, the mass spectrometer, the MS, acts as this ultra-high-speed camera at the finish line. It takes a unique molecular photo of every single runner to precisely identify them by their mass and charge.
And this abstract science translates seamlessly into the real world. If you take the necessary architecture, the sample inlet, the ion source, the mass analyzer, and the detector, it maps perfectly onto the physical, benchtop GCMS instrument sitting in modern laboratories today. Inside these modern machines, a heated GC column transfers the sample directly into the mass spectrometer's ion source and detector, while a computer runs the whole shebang, acquiring data and generating the final results.
So the crucial takeaway here is that every single sample goes through 4 very distinct steps. First, it gets completely vaporized in a heated inlet. Second, it's separated in the GC column. Third, as each compound exits that column, it enters the mass spectrometer, where it gets ionized and fragmented. And finally, step 4, it hits the detector. This provides data output allowing for simultaneous qualitative and quantitative analysis. It literally transforms from a complex liquid or solid into a perfectly clear digital fingerprint.
All right, moving on to Phase 1, gas chromatography. Let's zoom in on where our mixture gets completely vaporized and separated. In this DC stage, the sample is injected and immediately heated into a gaseous state. It's then picked up by what we call a mobile phase, an inert gas, usually helium or nitrogen. This gas forcefully sweeps the vaporized sample through a really long, coiled, microscopic column tucked inside a temperature-controlled oven. And this is exactly where the separation race happens. Smaller molecules, and those with lower boiling points, race through this column much faster. Because they're highly volatile, they elute, meaning they exit the column at earlier retention times than the heavier, less volatile compounds. But it's actually not just about boiling points. It is also about chemical interactions. Column selection totally dictates the race. See, the inside of the column is coated with a liquid stationary phase, and the golden rule in chemistry applies here. Like dissolves like. If you're using a nonpolar stationary phase, like a 100% dimethyl polysilicane, well, that's great for separating nonpolar hydrocarbons. But if you have polar volatile organic compounds, like alcohols or ketones, you'd want to use a very polar phase, like a polyethylene glycol carbowax. The polar column is going to interact heavily with those polar compounds, dragging them back and slowing them down, which ensures a perfect separation before they even reach the finish line.
Once our molecular runners are beautifully separated in the GC column, we hit Phase 2, mass spectroscopy.
Now, as each separated compound exits the end of the GC column, it plunges into the high vacuum environment of the mass spectrometer's ion source. Here, we most commonly use a technique called electron ionization, or EI. The molecules are essentially bombarded with a stream of highly energetic electrons, specifically at 70 electron volts. This massive transfer of energy violently shatters the neutral molecules, converting them into positively charged, fragmented ions. It basically breaks the molecule apart into tiny puzzle pieces.
These fractured, positively charged puzzle pieces are then accelerated right out of the ion source and steered directly into a mass analyzer. A very common one is a gold-plated fused silica quadrupole mass filter. This quadrupole uses 4 parallel rods that apply incredibly precise radio frequency and direct current voltages to create a dynamic electric field, and this field acts as a highly selective filter. It continuously varies the voltages to sort the ions based strictly on their mass-to-charge ratio, which we call m/z. Ions with the right m/z fly straight through to the detector, while ions with unstable oscillations strike the rods, get neutralized, and are just swept away by the vacuum pumps.
When those successfully filtered ions finally strike the detector, they generate an electrical current. The computer system grabs all this data and creates a mass spectrum, basically a histogram plotting the abundance of the ions against their mass-to-charge ratio. Because every single type of molecule shatters in a very specific, repeatable way under that 70 electron-volt beam, this spectrum acts as an undeniable, unique molecular fingerprint. The computer simply cross-references this fingerprint against massive, detailed reference libraries, like NIST, matching ion ratios and spectral similarity scores to give us a definitive, slam-dunk compound identification.
Which brings us to Section 4, the technology's evolution. It is truly amazing to think about the complex physics happening inside that high-vacuum chamber, but what's even wilder is how much this hardware has evolved to make this level of analysis so accessible today. Take Agilent's historical timeline, for instance. Back in 1971, they introduced the very first GC/MS system. Just 5 years later, in 1976, they hit a massive milestone with the first truly benchtop system. The progression was just rapid. 1982 brought the first mass-selective detector, essentially turning the MS into a standard GC detector. And by 1996, they introduced the patented gold-plated fused silica quadrupole we just talked about, offering unprecedented stability. The sheer scale of innovation here is striking. We went from vintage, room-filling pieces of equipment in the early 70s that required specialized knowledge just to keep them running, to sleek, integrated, modern benchtop units. Engineers actually figured out how to put the mass analyzer inside the vacuum diffusion pump, miniaturize the electronics, and hand all instrument control over to powerful personal computers. They minimized the required lab space without sacrificing a single drop of analytical performance, taking this tech from a really niche specialty to an everyday essential for scientists worldwide.
And that leads us to our final section, real-world applications.
So, why does all this matter? Where is this being used outside of a textbook? Well, because it provides exceptional sensitivity, high selectivity, and reliable analysis while virtually eliminating false positives, GCMS is the undeniable authority in countless fields. In forensic science, it's the absolute standard for detecting drugs of abuse and explosives and complex things like blood or hair. In environmental analysis, we use it to track down dangerous pollutants in drinking water or pesticides in soil. Clinical and pharmaceutical labs use it for rigorous quality control. Heck, food scientists even rely on it for aroma analysis, characterizing the exact flavor profiles in your favorite beverages and essential oils. It is literally everywhere.
So here's a thought to leave you with. If this brilliant combination of vaporized separation and electron ionization has already evolved from room-sized machines to sleek benchtop units capable of identifying a single invisible molecule with astonishing accuracy, what microscopic mysteries will it uncover for us tomorrow? Thank you so much for joining this explainer, and keep questioning the invisible world around you.